Greetings and hello. My name is Deborah McKenzie. I am the Senior Director for Standards and the Official Methods Program at AOAC International, and I am here to provide you an introduction to AOAC Standards Development and the Official Methods Program. How does AOAC develop its own standards? Well, there is a concerted standards development process. It adheres to international standard principles. It leverages the global AOAC membership, the body of science partnerships to form collaboration and consensus volunteer bodies. It is scientific and performance-based, and AOAC forms working groups as needed. And we form these working groups as needed through our under the umbrella of our integrated science programs and individual analytical solutions forum affiliated working groups, and I'll go into that analytical solutions forum in just a moment. I mentioned having standards principles, and the World Trade Organization actually sets up what the global stage for what these principles should be in its technical barriers to trade annex. And countries that are signatories to the WTO agreement are party to endorsing and following these global standards principles, which include transparency, openness, impartiality, effectiveness and relevance, consensus, performance-based coherence, due process, technical assistance, flexibility, timeliness, and balance. AOAC's process at its very base is 3 steps. There's a new project that is formed, new program or project that is formed. That means an idea or program or project comes in through our analytical solutions forum, emerging challenge or technologies, or an individual or sole source entity will come to AOAC. The program or project scope is then defined for a period of time as part of our business development. In forming these programs or projects, we form what's referred to as an advisory panel. And this advisory panel, these are not only those who support financially the program and project, but they are also key stakeholders that provide the project scope for a period of time. They also provide assistance and recommendations on who else needs to be involved, including potential working group chairs and other subject matter experts and other organizations that need to be involved in the standard development process. The last stage is the standard is developed, and then our working groups develop the draft standards. Those are posted for additional comment by stakeholders. The working group then reconciles those comments and prepares a final draft for consensus by the broader stakeholder community. And upon the consensus of the broader stakeholder community, does AOAC have a standard developed? I mentioned the Analytical Solutions Forum as a starting point, and AOAC's Analytical Solutions Forum has had it's been in place for 4 years, but it has covered quite a few areas. It's noted to be AOAC's horizon scanning, a way of horizon scanning, but also an idea incubator. Its objectives include convening global stakeholders from government, industry, and academia, horizon scanning to be more proactive, to allow AOAC to be more proactive, identifying emerging challenges for food and feed and agricultural safety communities, to assess potential for new programs, and to develop integrated scientific solutions. So far, we have had domestic and international regulatory perspective on food, feed, and safety challenges. We've had One Health introduced and discussed within AOAC. We've also had international capacity building. We've had data confidence through sound science. We've also been able to explore emerging technologies that can be adapted through standards development and method certification. AOAC's basic standards principles include the transparency, the openness, the balance of interest. So things may come into the analytical solutions forum and shaped into a project that will then require the use of these basic standards and consensus principles, which include transparency, openness, balance of interest, due process, consensus, and appeals. AOAC also develops a number of different varying types of standards. These include performance requirements. In fact, our standard method performance requirements are our most abundant type of standards. We also develop guidelines, validation guidelines, end user guidelines. We develop sampling standards. Many of our methods of analysis, including the OMA itself, is considered a standard. We develop best practice documents. We develop operational documents. We develop documents on reference materials as well as documents on training. Within AOAC's standards process, we engage in a number of stakeholders in our programs and projects. All stakeholders are entitled to due process. All stakeholders are entitled to share their perspective. Anyone with a material interest may participate. The standards are established by a group that lacks dominance by any one particular interest, and that's what the balance refers to. Draft standards must contain input of stakeholders of varying perspectives, sectors, and interests. And AOAC will confirm consensus regardless of the mechanism used to demonstrate consensus of the stakeholders. AOAC has a basic standards activity framework. This includes an 8-stage process from project initiation to publication of the standard and other outcomes. Project initiation in stage 1 is bringing that advisory panel, those group of financial supporters, together to reach agreement on the scope of work for the type of standard to be developed. AOAC then engages in outreach to invite subject matter experts and recruit members to draft the standard. We also publicize these activities and establish the working group. In stage 3, AOAC brings that working group together to start the development, and they meet regularly as well as work offline to develop draft standards. Once they've reached agreement on their draft standard, we go to stage 4, where then that draft standard is posted for public comment. And this is where AOAC invites the broader stakeholder community to provide input on the draft standard. In stage 5, the working group then reconciles those comments and prepare a final draft of that standard for which the stakeholder community can then review and recommend their consensus or deliberate and reach consensus on acceptability in stage 6 of the draft standard. In stage 7, there is a review. If once the standard has reached consensus by the stakeholder community, AOAC reviews to ensure all due process has been adjudicated and included in the development of the standard. and then that standard will then go to publications, where it is published in AOAC, the official methods of analysis of AOAC, both online and print, as well as currently accessible on the AOAC website. And that concludes AOAC standards development activities. At this point, the standards development is complete with the publication. Now, the types of standards AOAC develops include standard method performance requirements, as I mentioned, performance standards, validation guidance, and so forth. And so this leads into the next step, which is the methods of analysis. And so likewise, the AOAC, after standards development is complete, more often than not, the next step in the process will be engaging conformity assessment through the official methods program. AOAC, the next step in our process is issuing a call for methods, and if needed, a call for experts. Since AOAC methods are reviewed by expert review panels, if we do not have an expert review panel in place, we'll need to issue a call for experts. You will often find this in AOAC Spectrum, as well as AOAC Inside Laboratory Management. After the call for methods and experts is complete, or is issued, what we invite method authors to submit their methods is that they feel will meet, that they think will meet the AOAC standard that has been developed, whether it is a performance standard or validation guidance. AOAC will then take those submitted methods and prepare those for the expert review panel to review. AOAC has what's called AOAC Analytical Methods Week, and this is a week of public meetings of expert review panels where they will complete their reviews and render decisions on methods submitted for official methods of analysis status. New methods that are approved are published in the official methods of analysis and in the Journal of AOAC International. These are first action method publications. Along the same line, method modifications are also published in the official methods of analysis and in the Journal of AOAC International. Thereafter, all first action methods are tracked by under the guidance of the expert review panel that adopted it. And those methods have 2 years to collect reproducibility data and to further meet the standard against which it was originally adopted. Based on the expert review panel satisfaction of the method meeting their requirements, the expert review panel may recommend the method for final action status in the official methods of analysis. Those final action recommendations are provided to the AOAC Official Methods Board, and they are the ones who will review those recommendations and render a decision on methods to go to final action status. Methods that the Official Methods Board moved to final action status will then have that designation added to their status in the official methods of analysis. And that concludes the official methods program. I mentioned AOAC Analytical Methods Week, and this Analytical Methods Week is about 5 years old. It is a virtual expert review panel week of meetings, public meetings, to review and reach consensus decisions on submitted methods of analysis. Registration is required. These are held 3 to 4 times annually, and AOAC has one coming up, actually. We have method submission deadlines, and so this is when these are posted when we issue calls for methods. This also includes individually prompted method submissions, and application fees may apply. AOAC makes this determination based on a number of factors within how a method is submitted and its own policy for application fees. Also, there is upcoming Analytical Methods Week. The method submission deadline for the upcoming was on Friday, October 14th. The next upcoming Analytical Methods Week is November 28th through the 2nd of December. Anyone can register and participate or as an observer. Of course, our expert review panels, we will determine and put out a schedule for when those expert review panel meetings will take place. I wanted to share with you a little bit about the official methods application process, because it is in 3 sections. The first section talks about the ideal submission package, and with that comes how to properly format a candidate or a modified official method for the official methods of analysis, as well as how to format the manuscript of the supporting data for the method under consideration. The second part is a safety checklist, and we ask method submitters and method authors to provide a safety checklist to identify specific safety or hazardous conditions, procedure steps, or reagents in their method. And then the last section is the actual application. And the application and submission of the method itself is also separated into those applications that have ongoing active and open calls for methods, and those methods that are not affiliated with an active and open call for methods. So our Cannabis Analytical Science Program, or CASP, and our Stakeholder Program on infant formula and adult nutritionals, SPIFAN, those have ongoing active and open calls for methods. The general method submission application is not, and that is the one that is most likely associated that will have application fees apply. However, again, we evaluate all of them to ensure against our policy to determine whether or not they will whether or not there's an application fee applicable. And again, to access this form, it is here on this link here on the bottom. Just to share a little bit with you about the team, myself, Deborah McKenzie. However, we have Senior Manager Delia Boyd, who works with our Official Methods program, our gluten and food allergens, our food authenticity, and our infant formula programs. Saliha Agabi, who works with our stakeholder program on agent detection assays, as well as our expert review panels that review methods not associated with a call for methods. We have Allison Baker, who is coordinating our acrylamide project, as well as our Analytical International Methods and Standards program, as well as our Cannabis Analytical Science program. And then Constance Barr is working with our technical division on reference materials. She's also helping us prepare to launch our Botanical Ingredients and Dietary Supplements program, as well as a new project, an upcoming project on per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, or PFAS. So along those lines, AOAC does have some current initiatives that we're hoping to launch in the very near future. These include developing voluntary consensus standards for color additives from natural sources. These also include developing consensus standards for the determination of pyrrolizidine alkaloids. This also includes developing voluntary consensus standards for per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, or PFAS. This also includes our Botanical Ingredient and Dietary Supplement Integrity Program, BIDSI, and then certainly our voluntary consensus standards for heavy metals in foods is relooking at the potential of relooking at some of our previous standards based on new regulation or upcoming regulations around heavy metals in various commodities. If you are interested in supporting any of these initiatives, please contact Alicia Michaeljohn. And if you have any, in addition to these initiatives, any new ideas for AOAC standards development, please do not hesitate to contact me. So with all of that, how can you get involved? Certainly, you can be an advisory panel member. Advisory panel members provide funding support and assist AOAC in setting priorities and deliverables for the science program, working groups, and/or science programs in general. They meet on average 4 times a year. Can be a working group chair. And these are subject matter experts who work with staff to launch and lead working groups to develop and present deliverables to stakeholders. Staff and working group chairs coordinate bi-weekly working group meetings. Also work offline with the rest of the working group. Can be a working group member. Subject matter experts in aspects of the priority topic area and scope of the working groups are required to accomplish deliverables. Active participation is required during bi-weekly working group meetings and in offline working group collaboration. Can also be a general stakeholder. This is anyone with a material interest in the program's work who is not necessarily a working group member, however, will attend program or project meetings and can review and comment on draft consensus documents, can participate in program discussions and demonstrate community consensus on any consensus-based deliverables. Furthermore, serve on an AOAC expert panel by lend your expertise to reviewing methods and sometimes validation protocols in AOAC method validation programs. And certainly, please feel free to submit a method if you have one and challenge your method to the rigor of an AOAC validation study in any of its validation programs as appropriate and relevant. And always, please see the AOAC spectrum for upcoming information. So with that, I want to thank you and thank you so much. AOAC is a facilitator and a convener for the development of standards for the adoption and approval of methods, as well as for the development of other programs, services, and solutions to meet analytical needs in food safety, food integrity, and public health. So with that, I want to thank you again for your attention, and it would be my honor to entertain any questions you may have. Thank you very much.